So I was thinking about the topic of redefining success. And that recently came to my mind because I was just looking at my own life and looking at the things that I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, why am I feeling this certain way about, my business and all that kind of stuff? And I think it's mainly because of the metric I was using for success. And I think in each season, that'll change. Right. And so I think I'm in the season, like, I feel like I used to be in a season where it's like money, 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 right? Like Mr. Krabs.
That was like the first thing I thought of too.
Yeah. Shout out to SpongeBob, man. That's one of the best cartoons ever made.
I grew up on SpongeBob.
Right.
Like, all my best memories were just with my family, just laughing at SpongeBob. Man.
SpongeBob is great.
Love it.
Redefining success in that way. It's funny. We went on to that tangent. Redefining success. And in this season, I'm realizing, I think it's okay to worry about money because, I got to pay bills and I got to make sure I can get the things that I want. Yeah. But I think that, in each season, it comes to a point where it's like, okay, that metric of success is good, but now quantify something else, like, my fitness and all that kind of stuff, meeting new people, going out with my friends, stuff like that. So I just wanted to make sure that, and I feel like this is a topic that, people don't often say, but they think about for themselves, like, figuring out why you're feeling a certain way about your craft. Right. And I know, especially being entrepreneurs, it's easy to get stuck in this, I'm only doing this for money, I'm only doing this, to grow a bigger business. And so I'm realizing to just have a little shift in that.
Oh, for sure. Well, I think a big thing for me that made me realize with life, it's a total puzzle. Mm-hmm. And I think money is just a piece to that puzzle. Mm-hmm. So I think, funny enough, from Ty Lopez, Here in My Garage, it kind of brings me back to that because I think I heard that theory a couple years ago talking about it's like several pieces. So there's health, wealth, love, and happiness. Mm-hmm. And I think just being able to categorize what's important to you in the season of your life that you're in. Mm-hmm. And I think it's also easy to get lost in numbers as well. I think especially if you're on social media, you care about how many followers you have, how many likes did you get, how many comments. I think if you're focusing on business, it's easy to get lost in how much money you're making. Did you make more money than last month, last year? And so it's almost like your emotional state is almost relying on these things to be able to keep coming. So it's like, it's all great when it's up, but what happens when it's down? What happens when you're not doing as well as you thought you would? Mm-hmm. And I think also just setting expectations is huge, dude. Because I think going into it with what are you expecting out of this? Mm-hmm. That goes for relationships, for business, for friendships. How sometimes you may start something off with unrealistic expectations from the jump. So, of course, when you don't hit those unrealistic expectations, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, and I think that, I'm not one to bash social media. Like, I hate when people do that. But I think it's good to realize the role it plays in success because nowadays, we have this, and I hate to even say this. I felt disgusted about to say this word. But, this hustle culture. Right. And, it rubs people certain ways because especially when you think you're grinding and you think, you hit that 5K month or 10K month, right? We've all been there and it's like, oh, I feel like I did something good. You go on YouTube, 16-year-old just back to 200K a month.
Well, no, and this is the thing too. And I was actually talking to a friend about this, how there's always going to be someone doing better. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think this is this weird thing where actually I heard a phrase called, essentially said that comparison is the thief of joy. Yep. And so how, essentially when you get lost in this comparison game of going on social media, comparing your life to someone else, it just gets in this really toxic place where it's honestly just depressing because no matter how well you're doing, there's always someone who's going to be doing more. There's always someone who's better looking than you. There's always someone who makes more money than you.
Better looking.
Like, I am a Dolce & Gabbana runway model.
Did you see me on Calvin Klein last week? No.
But I think it's easy to get lost in those comparisons, man. So I think at the same time, like, you just need to work on yourself and what you care about and making those priorities for yourself. And I think all the rest will just fall into place.
Yeah, but it's so easy, right? Because especially, when you've created a bubble, and we've talked about this years ago, but just like, creating a bubble and, putting your blinders on and focus. But the moment you peer off and look at someone's life, you're like, I ain't did nothing.
Well, especially when you do something that is impressive to you. And so you're like, man, you feel so good about it. And it's kind of funny how, once again, if you stay in your own bubble, it feels great. You feel like you accomplished something. But then the second you take yourself outside of the bubble and you use social media and start looking around what other people are doing, it's so easy to make your accomplishment not feel like anything.
I mean, like, even something simple as, like, maybe like a year and a half or 2 years ago, like let's say when I hit my biggest month, let's say it was like $5,000, whatever, just on my business. Right. It felt good. I got this retainer. I'm working with clients and stuff like that. Right. But again, I'll hop on social media and say $25K per month, and I'm like, yo. Like, it feels like, all I did was in vain. But I think that's why it's good. Again, comparison is the thief of joy. So just always have that blinders off. And, something that people say as well with this comparison thing of, stop judging your first day on their 20th, right?
Bro, that is huge. So many people compare, like I said, you're literally 1 or 2 chapters in, you're just getting started, and you're comparing yourself to someone who's been in the game for 10 years. Like for me, I've been skateboarding for about, like 13 years now. And it's funny how I'll be riding with people and they're just getting on the board for the first time. And I guess they see like how natural I am or how comfortable it is.
I'm jealous about that, by the way.
But here's the thing. But you know how many times I fell? You know how many times I've just scraped, bleeding and falling downstairs and just looking stupid and falling in front of the pretty girl I wanted to impress, skateboarding down the street, like all these different little moments. And I think it's easy for beginners to look at people who are evolved and have really put the time in to just take that for granted. They don't think about all the failures that had to go into making that.
You know why? Because focus is a muscle, right? So I think that when you first start off in any journey, playing I used to play the drums, which I'm pissed I stopped, which I'm going to get back into soon. But focus is a muscle. That's what I was saying. So right, you've been doing the skateboarding thing, so you're good at it because you focus on it. You did the tricks and stuff like that. Right. But you're not looking at like name a big skateboarder, right?
Houston.
Right. So it's like you're not looking at that guy and saying like, I can't do those tricks, all that kind of stuff. Because no, because you're focused on you. And I think that's probably the biggest difference of a beginner and someone who's been in a while. Yeah. Their focus is not on anyone else. Like they've created this mental callus of like, no, I'm looking forward and this is my thing I'm going after and I'm focused on this. Because really, like the moment you pair off, then you just demolish everything you've done. Right. Even if you're pairing off to just, focus on something else. Not saying that's bad, but the consequence of that is still you're off of the main thing.
Well, no, and good things take time. You know what I mean? I think especially for me, anything that I've done or really invested in that was worth putting that time into, I was in it for years. You know what I mean? Like I didn't start getting the deals and the relationships I have now with my business like for years. I mean, I went saw it 3 years without really making anything. And then I'm just now seeing the fruits of my labor. So a lot of it's just staying in the game and staying committed. I think especially now where everyone has shiny ball syndrome and we all want to drop things within the first 3 months of it not getting once again, expectations of what we thought it should be.
Oh, I've been there, done that.
And people just drop it. And so like, I think you need to find the things in your life that are worth committing to. And I think that was a big thing for me this week of just reflecting about what are the things in my life that I need to, that I've been kind of like halfway committing to that I just need to go all in on. And I think those are the things that are just going to take time. But I think at the end of the day, if you make the right choices, it'll definitely be worth it.
Yeah, and if you've been in business for any amount of time, and I'm a baby to this thing, you're a baby to this thing, what, like 5-6 years maybe, and really making money probably like 2 years, 2-3 years.
Like actually making like real money.
Right. You'll know that no matter how hard you work this month, no matter how hard you work next month, the fruit of that will not come until 3 months from now. Yeah. I don't care what anyone tries to tell you because I know for myself, and this is really anecdotal, right? But I've put in so much work 1 month. For instance, I think even, 2020, right? I was working, I was trying to, make these things happen, reaching out doing a whole bunch of outreach, all that. Right. And I really didn't see the fruit of that until the next season, which is the next year, right? And, 2020 was a struggle for me, right? Yeah. Just mentally, business-wise, it sucked, And, coming into 2021, things started escalating and things started, doing well. But that's only because in the previous season, I worked so hard because I was, and I also had faith and I also had the courage to be like, you know what, in this moment, I know I'm not going to bear the fruit of this thing now, but I'm going to bear it in due season. Right. And I think that's, a Bible verse. I can't think about it, but it's like, you will bear the fruit in due season. Right. And I think that just gives people a joy. I think that gives people a something to work for. Like it makes me happy for the next day. Like, okay, cool. Like I know in due season, it may be hard right now, but at some point, I'm going to bear the fruit of my hard work.
Right. Well, I think in a lot of ways, man, success to me feels like a lot of a snowball effect type of thing, where it's like in the beginning you're just not getting anything, you're not as good as you thought you would be, you're not getting the results you thought you would. But I think over time, as you grow and you build, I think it's the Compound Effect was a good book that talked about this concept. About how a lot of times the beginning's going to suck, even the first 2 years might suck, but then all that knowledge is going to compound, and then eventually you're going to be so good at it, and it's going to feel amazing. But I think that takes time, and I think having that endurance is such a big deal.
And you know, it's too, once you're in a place when you make hard things automatic, right? So it's like, again, it's been building that callus of doing the hard thing. Yeah. So if you've done a whole bunch of hard things, to continue to do it is easy. Now it's when you stop. That's where the hard part comes. Like, it's never really hard when you're like doing it, because it's like, oh yeah, like I wake up at 5:30 up, go work out. Now I'm working, reach out emails. But the moment you stop, and I was in a similar season like this not too long ago, where it's like, I kind of stopped doing the things that got me to where I was, which I do believe that sometimes in order to get to there, you have to you can't just be doing the same thing. Sometimes you have to change. But I noticed that, like, when I was trying to work and try to get through these things, but when I stopped, I lost everything. Right, because it feels like starting over, and starting over sucks.
Right. Well, it's just that momentum for sure. Well, I think for me, a big part of it is it's really easy to win when you're already winning. Yep. But what do you do when it's not going your way, when things are slow, when that person doesn't get back to you, when that client doesn't end up going through the next month? That, to me, is a real test of will, because I think it's really easy to be in great spirits and to feel motivated when the checks are clearing, your crush is texting you back, everything's going smooth. And so I think for me,
you got a good pump in the gym.
Yeah, like you're feeling good, man. And so I think for me, a lot of the test of your will is what do you do and who are you when things are not going your way. To me, I think that's what makes a real winner.
No, that's true though, because again, I think we talked about this in maybe first episode or something like that. But when it feels like you have to restart something that you've already been consistent with, it's like I don't want it, right? Because like starting over sucks. But I think that's where perspective comes. It's like, you know what? No, I think it's a good way to look at it. Like, instead of starting over, if I did it once, I could do it again. Right. Again, what got you here may not get you there. So you may have to try different tactics, stuff like that. Even in, something that's simple, because not everyone's an entrepreneur, but even something as simple as working out, right? Yeah. So it's like, you've been hitting the gym 4 times a week and you just stop for 3 weeks. It's like, try hitting 2 days a week, right? Atomic Habits. Something that that book said was, identifying with your goals and identifying with the habit. Right. So, for instance, if you want to work out more, I am an athlete, so working out comes easy to me. And that's actually on my affirmation page. I'm an athlete, so working out comes easy. And so once you start building that mental pattern in your mind, it's like, oh, I'm an athlete, so working out is second nature. Eating healthy is second nature. And so bringing that back to the business world, it's like, oh, I'm already a multi-millionaire up here, so it's like, for me to outreach, for me to do all the things to set my business up should become second nature, because I'm already the person that I want to become.
No, 100%, man. I think that's huge. I think because the identity shift makes it feel natural to you. It's like, oh, of course this is what I'm going to do because I'm this person. So I think when things get hard and when you don't want to do it, it's because it doesn't feel like it's you, or at least the you that you identify with in this season of your life. And that's been a big thing for me that I had to overcome. And like you said, it's coming up with those affirmations and being able to gas yourself up, man. I think that's a big part of it that I've realized. Just a lot of the momentum, the confidence, the energy. Like, you need to be able to do things that create energy and create momentum in your life. And I think everyone has different little versions of that. I think for me, there's something that just makes me feel good, just gets my energy going. It's just like blasting my favorite song. I got a big old speaker in the background we were playing before we got on here. And just playing your favorite song and just looking good. Like, for me, like, I'm into the cologne thing right now, so I'm buying all these colognes that just like smell good. I'm looking good. Just whatever thing can just help you just lift your spirits, get that momentum, because those wins add up, man. Momentum is huge. Yeah,
and I hate to sound like a broken record, because I feel like I say this every podcast, but having someone also to be able to help you up. Like, for instance, when I'm having a trash month or a trash day, I know who to call. Like, yo, man, like, right now, like, we've had hours of conversation. Like, yo, I'm not feeling it right now. And, and I think what's good about having somebody to call that's not just going to agree with you either, right? They're like, hey, man, you're kind of BS. You know what I mean? Like, you're get on your stuff, right? And then also having, a piece of encouragement. Like, hey, you're feeling like this, but, hey, man, like, let's step out. I'm looking at the situation from the outside. It really isn't that bad. if you do this,
It's not that
you'll
serious.
be fine.
Well, and then it's funny too, because things definitely feel like the end of the world when you're in them. And I think just having the self-awareness to be able to step back from the situation and look at the whole thing. I heard this good quote. I think, man, it might have been one from one of those cringy entrepreneur pages. But this is the one time I actually thought it was good, where it talked about how essentially it's not worth. If it's not going to affect you in 5 years, don't spend more than 5 minutes worrying about it. And that was a big thing for me because I get so lost, and I think it's easy for a lot of us to get lost in these situational, very short-term problems.
Yeah.
And it feels like the end of the world. It's like, I'm never going to find love again. I'm never going to make money again. I'm never, going to be fit again or whatever. And so I think just being able to step back and be like, okay, let's just take a step, take a step back, breathe, recollect, and then get back into it.
Especially when you're younger, right? The smallest thing I feel is like my world is crumbling, but it's like, right. This is gonna pass over in 2 weeks. Like, calm down.
Yeah, well, and it's okay to mess up. You know what I mean? It's a part of life. It's a part of the process of getting better. And I think I even had a phone call with somebody just talking about that. How he messed up, and like I said, just brother to brother love, like. Just say, hey man, I think you're in the wrong on this, and this is why, and but you're once again don't identify with your mistake. You know what I mean? Like, okay, it happened. We're acknowledging it was bad, but we're gonna move forward. Let's learn and let's continue. So I think as long as you're learning from those mistakes, I think that's all that matters.
So actually, I have a little prompt for us right now.
Okay.
What is the characteristics that makes a good friend? Because I feel like that's something that we always talk about. Like, you have to have people close to you, somebody to hype you up. But I feel like we haven't really. We haven't really like defined what is a good friend, and I can start off if you need me to. I think someone who you can trust and depend on, and I think for me that's probably some of the biggest ones because even sometimes you don't even necessarily want encouragement. Like, yo, I just want to talk about this thing. I just want to brain dump. Just this is what I'm talking about, and sometimes you just want somebody to be like,